University said, make a 3-minute animated film. So naturally, I made a 5-minute one with no budget whilst commuting 4 hours a day, which somehow ended up winning the best film on my course. And honestly, I still don't know how I fully survived making it. Hi, I'm Dashka from Dashka Zone, and this is what happens when you're very organized but low-key, just a little bit unhinged. This is my first proper long-form video, so hi, hello, thank you so much for being here and watching my content. Since a lot of you seem to enjoy watching the behind-the-scenes stuff from my personal projects to silly incorporated reels, I thought it would be fun to talk about what it actually is like to make one of these animated thesis films. Most of the times we see so many big thesis and grad films on the platform, but majority of the time a lot of people don't really know what goes on behind the scenes. So I'd love to give you my personal story and insights about how my grad projects went. The good, the stressful, the sleep deprivation, the musician panic, all of it. Hopefully this can inspire you or give you some cool insights into the life of a student animator. So, time for a bit of context. I am a 2025 graduate and I studied animation in the UK in a university setting. I was also one of the slightly insane students commuting 2 hours each way to university for 3 years straight, which meant every day was basically wake up, train, animate, train, collapse, repeat. But honestly, it didn't stop my passion for animation. Over the course of 3 years, I produced one student film for every year alongside other portfolio work. It was quite a heavy course, but if you really love what you do, it just all goes by in a flash. Eventually, the time came. The big final project was coming my way, and I was briefed by my course to create a 3-minute animated piece in a span of 6 months. I won't lie, creating a graduate film was and is a challenging task, but it is always possible to create something fun and meaningful if you put your time and energy towards it. Prior to the start of my final year, I spent my entire summer doodling and brainstorming my final film with a constant question in my head. What will your final film be? And honestly, that was quite a scary question because this is a sort of piece that not only qualifies as your biggest grade, but also needs to be a strong piece for your portfolio. I knew I wanted my film to feel colourful, loud, emotional, and be something quite different to my previous pieces that were comedy, horror, and very dark in colour palettes. But there was one massive problem. Whatever idea I chose, I'd have to live with it for 6 months. So, during summer, I also entered gremlin brainstorming mode, trying to figure out, okay, so what film will actually also keep me sane whilst animating it? And somehow my brain landed on, what if demons were banned from techno music? Okay, let's backpedal a bit and enter my mind. How the heck did I come down to that conclusion? But if you actually haven't seen my grad film yet, Rave-olution, go check it out, it's up on my channel. The video will make so much more sense, but if not, feel free to stick around because we'll still be talking about the entire creative process behind it. My biggest main source of inspiration was a place I visited and the people I met there. The biggest EDM festival in the world, Tomorrowland, Belgium. It was my first ever music festival, my first rave, and the first time I saw one of my idols, Amelie Lenz, perform live. The second the music kicked in and the crowd started moving together, I genuinely remember standing there thinking, this is incredible. There was just something really powerful about thousands of strangers connecting through music alone. I just knew I had to translate the energy into a film, especially the crazy energy Amelie gave that day. She actually became a huge inspiration behind the DJ designs and the overall stage presence in the film. The demon DJ that the main character Kiki goes to see was heavily inspired by the experience of seeing Amelie perform live for the first time. I loved how powerful and immersive her performances felt, and I really wanted that same intense energy to come through in my film. This is when I started fleshing out my ideas of wanting demons in a techno music space, and developed it by making rough sketches of the main characters in a tiny sketchbook abroad. And weirdly enough, whilst developing Kiki as a character, I realized she also started reflecting parts of my own experiences and emotions, especially creatively and emotionally connecting through music. Once happy with them, I digitalized them and started producing rough concepts of backgrounds, concept art, and so much more. So, the story of Rave-olution was born. It's ended up shaping into its staple synopsis of, in a world where demons are banned from techno, Two demon DJs reveal their true selves, proving that music unites beyond prejudice. From that point, I was set on Rave-olution. I pitched my rough artwork and idea to my course for it to be greenlit, and my journey was officially underway. This project was really a case of working smart because 6 months is quite tight for a solo animated project, especially one where I somehow convinced myself that making a 5-minute film was a good idea. Oh yeah, by the way, spoiler alert, it actually used to be 7 or 8 minutes long, but yeah, we cut it down. I know some viewers may not fully know the animation process, so I'll try my best to weave it throughout the video as I talk about my experience. The projects mainly went through 3 stages: pre-production, production, and post-production, and every single one came with its own flavor of chaos. So firstly, pre-production. I had already spent the entire summer brainstorming ideas, but now it was actually the time to lock everything in. This meant finalizing character designs, backgrounds, story ideas, and overall world building. As part of the brief, and honestly for my own sanity, I also produced an entire pre-production book. One of the biggest decisions I made early on was for there to be no dialogue in the film. Partly because dialogue animation takes way more time, but also because I wanted the music to emotionally do the talking. So of course, I also needed to find a techno music composer. So whilst beginning the search for the perfect composer, I started building the official storyboard and animatics using placeholder tracks just to test whether the vibe actually works. And honestly, it did, it was awesome! But the animatic phase was brutal. There were so many moments where I had to cut scenes or completely change shots purely for storytelling and production time. For example, I originally had an entire opening scene introducing the main character Kiki in her household before the actual festival events, showing her love for music and DJing in more detail. And whilst I really wish I could have kept it in, for the sake of pacing, it just had to go. After around 6 or 7 animatic revisions, I was finally happy with how things were flowing. Although, at this point, the film had already evolved into a 5-minute project despite the official 3-minute cap. And like I mentioned prior, it used to be 7-8 minutes, so maybe, cutting down the introduction was for the better. But honestly, I actually felt very confident in the 5-minute film that I could actually pull it off. And it was mostly due to the fact that the year before, I created a film that was 4 minutes despite there being a 2-minute cap. So this time I just knew I could do it again, and even better. So after pre-production wrapped up, and I was super confident in my character, storyboard, and overall direction, it was finally time to enter full production mode. And this is where things started getting really intense. My life every day basically became animating, dissertation writing, video rendering, commuting, caffeine, and it was just on a constant repeat for many and many months. I was also challenged on a technical level as university said, "Hi, we're just going to cut access to all the programs you use from home, so good luck with your final project and bye!" Honestly, I was so blessed I taught myself how to use Toon Boom over the past 2 summers. And also the fact that I had my own personal license, because without it, the project definitely would have been in shambles. But at the same time, Toon Boom really helped with my workload. So essentially, it helped me recycle assets or do hybrid rigging techniques. But at the same time, I just had to keep learning it on the go, which of course is stressful when, certain things didn't work out, but I kept going, and I just had to plan my next moves very carefully. Even if Rave-olution was technically a solo project, I had some amazing helpers for things like 3D backgrounds, extra design work, and 2D animation, which helped massively during such a stressful production period. But there was now an even bigger issue slowly creeping upon me. My entire film depended on techno music, and I still didn't have a musician! Okay, so biggest issue. Unfortunately, techno music in the UK is weirdly niche, especially for the kind of style I was going for at that time. So I tried out a couple of things. I tried royalty-free tracks. They sounded awful. I looked for producers locally. No luck. I even had a chance at university funding to potentially hire an overseas ghost producer. but unfortunately I wasn't successful. At the time it honestly sucked so much, but weirdly enough it only made me more determined to prove the project could still work without having to rely on funding. I then had someone from a music course offer me to work on the film, which was such a relief. But unfortunately they withdrew for personal reasons, so now I was left with a ticking clock and a huge uh-oh mindset. Deadlines were approaching fast, and I was still animating with placeholder tracks and no musician to be found in sight. So I was left by myself, panicking, thinking what to do in such a difficult situation. And then I had an idea. During year 2 of university, I made a really valuable musician connection who composed for my previous film and did such an amazing job. I reached out to them asking if they possibly knew anyone who could compose techno music or EDM music. Man, I was in such luck. That's when I got connected with my musician, who ended up composing the final soundtrack for my film. We instantly connected on the vibe the project was going for, and I could finally animate with peace of mind while they absolutely cooked. It was just so amazing finally finding someone who understood my project and was willing to take on such a role. Man, they were amazing, and I'm so thankful to my musician that helped me find this valuable contact. Thank you so much again if you're watching this. And finally, I hit post-production. I managed to edit my video. And finally, after months of cutting animatics, hunting for musicians, learning programs, destroying my eyesight, and surviving public transport, the film was finished. I was so happy. It ended up screening in a private cinema in London before later showing at our graduate showcase, and man, hearing those bass-heavy speakers shake the room was genuinely surreal. I was so proud of myself. And somehow, it ended up winning Best Final Year Film on the course, which honestly still doesn't feel real, but I'm so happy. It finally paid off. I finally breathed out and started weaving all my new content into my portfolio and sending it off to film festivals. I have never felt prouder in my life of myself. Overall, making a graduate film was one of the most stressful things I've ever done, but also one of the most rewarding. I think the biggest thing I learned is that passion genuinely carries you through projects that feel impossible at first. Even when you're exhausted, even when things go wrong, even when you're questioning why you thought making a 5-minute rave film about demons was a good idea in the first place, it all comes together in the end. I admit I wish I could have taken time to rest a bit more during this entire process, but I admit I was somewhat relatively fair to myself, restricting how much I worked per day and forcing myself to rest on weekends even though it was quite hard to. But nonetheless, it was so worth it in the end. Anywho, thank you so much for watching my first long-form video. I really hope this gave you some insight into what it was like to create a student animated film. And if you somehow enjoyed listening to me ramble about rave demons, animation pipelines, and sleep deprivation for the last 15-ish minutes or so, feel free to stick around for more future projects and chaotic animation content. And if you're currently making a grad film yourself, good luck, soldier, you got this.